Welcome to the Ted and Tina podcast brought to you by Funtacular Books. Today, Ted and Tina are discussing the AI Workshop by Milo Foster. Link is in the comments for the book. Enjoy.
Will AI take my job? I mean, it's a question, it's on a lot of our minds these days, right? And, well, for good reason.
Absolutely. The buzz around artificial intelligence is just constant. It's everywhere.
Exactly. And it's only natural to wonder, what does all this mean for our careers?
For sure.
So that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to sift through some really interesting material, try to give you a clearer picture.
Yeah, help you feel informed, maybe a bit empowered, rather than just, overwhelmed by it all.
Right. And our main guide for this is a source called the AI Workshop, the Complete Beginner's Guide.
Mm-hmm.
And right from the start, it makes a really compelling point, I think. It says AI shouldn't just be for, tech experts.
Right, not some exclusive club.
Yeah, it should be a tool that's accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
And that really reframes the whole conversation, doesn't it?
It really does. Thinking about AI is something we can all potentially use, not just fear. And, well, to really understand how AI might affect our jobs, we probably need to get a handle on what it actually is first.
Good point. Where do we start?
Well, think about the first time you used, say, a GPS. You know that almost magical feeling?
Oh, yeah. This little box just knew where you were.
Exactly. Knew where you were, guided you perfectly. Our source uses that kind of tech as a relatable example, shows how technology can solve these really complex problems pretty effectively.
Okay. So how does it work fundamentally?
Well, at its core, AI works with math and data. Lots of data. It uses these sophisticated algorithms to find patterns.
The patterns in the data.
Right. Find patterns and then make predictions based on them. Now, look. The math can get complex, no doubt. But the basic ideas behind it, our source stresses they're surprisingly understandable for pretty much anyone. You don't need a PhD in computer science.
That's reassuring. So, okay, let's nail down some key terms and get everyone on the same page.
Good idea.
Our guide explains that artificial intelligence, AI, that's the big umbrella term.
Yeah, right, the broadest category.
It's all about creating computer systems that can do tasks that, typically need human intelligence. But let's be really clear here. This isn't like science fiction robots suddenly having feelings or consciousness.
No, definitely not. It's about machines processing information, spotting those patterns we mentioned, and making decisions or predictions in ways that seem intelligent to us.
Right. Seem intelligent. Got it.
And then within that big AI umbrella, we have machine learning.
Okay, so a subset.
Exactly. Think of it like this. If AI is the goal creating these smart systems, then machine learning is a key method to get there.
How so?
It's about enabling computers to learn from data themselves without us having to explicitly program every single rule or step. They figure it out from the example.
Okay. Learning from data. That makes sense.
And one of the really fascinating parts of this is the idea of neural networks.
Neural networks. Sounds complex.
Well, the source touches on them, explaining how they show machines learning and adapting in ways that can feel almost magical sometimes. But, and this is important, also reminds us that real human intelligence is way more complex than just spotting patterns in data.
Right. A crucial distinction, especially when we're thinking about what AI can actually truly do.
Precisely. And, to get a more hands-on feel for this machine learning stuff, our source suggests a brilliant little experiment. It uses Google's Quick Draw game.
Oh, Quick Draw. I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's fun. You just go to quickdraw.withgoogle.com in your browser, click Start.
Okay.
And the game gives you a word, maybe cat or car or something, and you have just 20 seconds to draw it with your mouse or finger.
Right, and the AI tries to guess.
Exactly. The AI tries to guess what you're drawing in real time. If it gets it right, you move on to the next word.
That sounds like a great way to actually see pattern recognition happening.
It really is. It's surprisingly engaging, and you get a tangible sense of how these systems learn from millions of other drawings it's seen.
I've actually tried it,
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing how often it gets it right, even with my questionable artistic skills.
Mine too. But it does give you that feel for how these systems learn, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, so let's bring this back to the big question looming over us. Will AI take my job?
Right. Because these advancements, these pattern recognition abilities, they're leading to some incredibly practical tools.
Tools that are becoming much more accessible, right? Not just for programmers anymore.
Exactly. Which brings us to this concept of no-code AI.
No-code AI. Tell me more.
Well, our source explains that these no-code platforms, they let you build some pretty sophisticated AI applications without actually having to write any computer code yourself.
Really? How does that work?
Instead of giving the computer, detailed instructions line by line in code, you basically define the outcome you want. You tell the platform what you want to achieve, maybe using a visual interface, and it handles the complex technical stuff in the background.
Okay, so it simplifies things massively.
Hugely. The guide uses a good analogy. It's like building something with ready-made, prefabricated parts versus building it all from scratch, brick by brick.
Ah, I get it. You can still build the house.
Yeah.
But one way needs way less specialized knowledge and, frankly, effort.
Precisely. And this whole world of no-code AI is just exploding right now. We're seeing these really user-friendly tools popping up everywhere.
Okay, so what kinds of tools are we talking about? Can you give some examples?
Sure. We can kind of break them down into a few categories to make sense of it. First, there are what our source might call visual AI builders.
Visual AI builders.
Yeah, I think platforms like, obviously, AI or Lobe, which is from Microsoft, and Apple's Create ML, these often use, drag and drop interfaces. You upload your data, maybe customer info, sales figures, whatever. You tell it what you want the AI to predict, maybe which customers might leave, or future sales trends.
Right.
And the platform does the heavy lifting of actually training the machine learning model for you. No coding needed.
Wow. Okay, that's powerful. What else?
Then there are AI task automation tools. You might know platforms like Zapier or Make, that used to be Integromat and IFTTT.
Yeah, I use Zapier sometimes.
For connecting apps.
Exactly. Well, many of these are now baking in AI features. So you can connect different apps and have AI do things within those connections.
Like what kind of things?
Like automatically analyzing the sentiment, positive, negative, neutral of customer feedback coming into a spreadsheet.
Oh.
Or identifying objects in images for inventory management, maybe. Or even understanding natural language commands to trigger specific automated actions across your apps.
So automating more complex workflows using AI smarts.
You got it. And then perhaps the most approachable category, especially now.
Yeah. Are the natural language interfaces. Tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Bard, the ones everyone's talking about.
Right, the chatbots.
Exactly. Our source highlights these as maybe the easiest entry point into no-code AI. You just talk to them, describe what you need.
Like asking to draft an email or summarize a long article.
Or even generate some basic code for you. Or analyze data you paste in, create content, all without you needing any technical coding skills yourself.
It's really the user-friendly aspect of these interfaces. It's key, isn't it? Making complex stuff seem simple.
Totally. It democratizes access to this power.
And it's moving beyond just text and data now, too, right? You mentioned video.
Oh, yeah. AI video tools are developing incredibly fast. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Oh, so?
Well, we're seeing tools that can take a simple text prompt and generate a video with realistic-looking avatars speaking that text.
Wow.
Or tools that can seamlessly place a person from one video into a completely different scene in another video.
Okay, that sounds powerful.
And even tools aiming to generate entire complex video sequences just from a detailed written description. It's opening up some really interesting new creative possibility.
Definitely new possibilities, but I guess that also comes with risks.
For sure. Our source rightly points this out. While these advancements are exciting, they also come with serious considerations.
Like?
Well, think about how easy it could become to create realistic fake videos, deep fakes. That raises huge questions about trust, misinformation, manipulation.
Yeah, I can see that. Especially in areas like news or politics.
Exactly. These are powerful capabilities, and we really need to think carefully and ethically about how they're used.
Which ties into how we should view these tools overall, right?
Yeah.
The source mentions thinking of them as assistants.
Yes, precisely. Helpful assistance, but definitely not perfect solutions or, total replacements for human input.
So good for a first draft, maybe? Or sparking ideas.
Fantastic for that. Great for getting started, breaking writer's block, handling repetitive analysis tasks, things like that.
But the human element is still crucial.
Absolutely critical. For that final review, for fact-checking, for bringing in nuanced judgment and ethical considerations, that unique creative spark, AI isn't there yet. Maybe never will be in the same way.
Okay. And speaking of AI not being perfect, what happens when these tools don't cooperate? When they give weird answers or just don't work right?
Yes. The guide has some really practical tips for that. It's bound to happen.
Like if you ask it something and the output is just really vague.
Right. If it's too vague, the key is usually that you need to be much more specific in your instructions, your prompt.
So instead, just write about dogs.
Try something much more focused, like write a 300-word explanation focusing on border collie training techniques specifically for first-time dog owners. See the difference?
Yeah, much clearer what you expect. What if it gives you wrong information? Hallucinations, they call them sometimes.
That's a big one. The key here is always fact-check important details the AI gives you, especially for critical tasks.
So just trust it blindly.
Never blindly. And you can also try to guide it towards better info in your prompt. Maybe specify reliable sources you want it to use.
Like asking it to summarize recent climate research, but only use peer-reviewed journals published since 2020.
Exactly. You're giving it guardrails.
Okay. What if the answers are just irrelevant, off topic?
Often that happens when your request is too complex or has too many parts. The trick is to break it down.
Smaller steps.
Yeah. Instead of asking for, say, an entire business plan in one go, maybe first ask it to identify potential target markets. Then ask for marketing strategies for one of those markets. Then move to the next step, piece by piece.
Makes sense. Keep it focused.
And what about bias? AI is trained on human data, so bias can creep in.
Right, if the result seems slanted.
You can explicitly ask for balanced perspectives. Try prompts like, show the pros and cons of this approach from different stakeholder viewpoints.
Or provide 3 different approaches to solving this problem.
Exactly. Encourage it to explore multiple angles, not just the most common or potentially biased one it first latched onto.
Okay, one more. What if the tool just seems stuck? Like it's repeating itself or going in circles?
Ah, the loop. Yeah, sometimes the best thing is just to, well, start fresh.
Wipe the slate clean?
Pretty much. Start a brand new conversation or session. Refine your initial request based on what went wrong. Make it clearer, simpler, and try again. Don't keep trying to argue with its confused state.
Got it. These are actually really useful practical tips.
They really are.
Yeah.
Because they help empower us, the users, to work effectively with the AI. It shifts the dynamic, right?
Yeah, it makes it feel less like we're just at the mercy of this weird technology.
And more like we can actually guide it, steer it, make it a genuinely useful partner in getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it reminds me of that quote the guide includes from Edsger Dijkstra.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
He said, the question of whether a computer can think is no more interesting than the question of whether a submarine can swim.
Huh. Okay, yeah, unpack that.
Well, it suggests we should maybe focus less on the deep philosophical debates about whether AI is truly thinking or conscious.
All right, the sci-fi stuff.
And focus more on its practical capabilities. What does it do? How is it a tool? Just like we focus on what a submarine does, it lets us travel underwater.
We don't get bogged down arguing if it's really swimming like a fish.
Exactly. It's about the function, the utility. And that perspective feels really helpful when we're considering the impact on jobs. Focus on what it enables, what it changes functionally.
Okay, that's a great way to frame it.
Yeah.
So let's try and bring this all together then. What are the main takeaways?
Well, first, AI is definitely a powerful set of technologies, a powerful tool.
Right.
And second, thanks to things like these no-code platforms, it's becoming way more accessible to everyone, not just specialists.
Okay, accessible power.
It absolutely has the potential to automate a lot of tasks, maybe create entirely new ways of working, new kinds of jobs even.
There's always a bug.
But yeah, it's not magic. It's not a perfect substitute for human skills, human judgment, creativity, ethical thinking. That oversight is still vital.
So circling right back to that first question, will AI take my job? What's the verdict based on all this?
Well, it seems the picture is unsurprisingly more complex than a simple yes or no.
Yeah, rarely is that simple, is it?
Right. AI will undoubtedly change the landscape of work. Some tasks will be automated, some jobs might disappear, but others will change and new ones will likely emerge.
So the focus should shift.
Yeah.
From just fear of replacement.
Exactly. Shift towards understanding how to use AI as a powerful assistant. How can it augment what we do? And crucially, how do we adapt? What new skills do we need to develop to thrive in this evolving landscape?
Adaptation and augmentation, rather than just replacement.
That seems to be the key message. And, you know, considering how much easier these tools are becoming to use, almost daily it seems.
Yeah.
It prompts a really interesting final thought, maybe something for you listening to mull over.
Okay, leave us with something to think about.
What new skills or maybe areas of expertise might become really essential for humans to focus on, specifically to work effectively with AI in the future? If AI handles more of the routine stuff, what's our unique high-value contribution going to be?
That's a great question. Thinking proactively about where human value lies alongside AI.
Exactly. Moving beyond passive worry into active adaptation. Because ultimately, the potential for humans and AI working together, it's actually immense.
The potentially exciting future, then, if we approach it right.
I think so. Definitely one worth preparing for.